And then that's the first time I went, oh, this is Shelly.
Mm,
This is Shelly. I can say whatever I want to say. I don't have to watch what I say. I don't have to be grateful. And it
yeah.
was kind of a turning point, I think.
Hey there, it's Melissa Brunetti, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Karma podcast.
Hey there, Karma Crew. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Mind Your Own Karma, the Adoption Chronicles. Today I have Shelly Dunlap Johnson on the show. Shelly is a private domestic adoptee. She was born 2 years post-baby scoop era in North Carolina. She was raised a minister daughter along with her younger sister that her adoptive parents conceived. She was forced to become a birth mother at age 17. She has 5 children. Her eldest daughter is adopted due to illegal rehomings. Trying to find answers for herself and her adoptive daughter, the journey began. Shelly fought the system to find out her identity, place of birth, and date of birth. She lost and ended up paying $4,000 to find out who she was and where she came from. She began her search before DNA was available. Because of her personal journey, she became a search angel for others. She quit her career and began searching and doing reunifications for other adoptees. She believes we all deserve answers, that it is our inherent right. Here is my interview with Shelly. We are welcoming Shelly to the show today. Hi, Shelly.
Hello.
Nice to have you on. I've seen you around in the adoptee circles and haven't really
Oh,
had a chance to talk to you. So great having you on the show.
I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
So you represent quite a few legs of the triad, and I always love having those type of guests on the show because it just gives a whole new perspective and a whole new angle. And I just like talking, getting that perspective is just huge because in this show, it's all about education, about adoption, and I feel like a lot of people think that it starts on the day of relinquishment when actually it starts way before that, maybe even generations. So, in order to get the whole story, we have to hear all sides. So, here you are.
Here I am. I feel a bit of the triad.
Yes. So, why don't you just start by telling us what you know about the circumstances surrounding your personal adoption?
So, I always knew that I was adopted. There was never a moment, looking back at the story, I was told, you were a gift. Someone loved you so much that they gave you to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, while I am thankful that I didn't have a day that I found out, um, those words that seem beautiful, especially to the gin pop, they kind of mess with your head.
Mhm.
But I've always known that I was adopted, and um, we talked about it openly. And oddly, they still introduce me as this is Shelly, our adopted daughter.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Do you
I know
know like the circumstances of your birth mother or any of
my
that?
birth mother was 15 when she got pregnant, and it was in North Carolina. And Roe had been, it, abortions were available and had been for about a year, but because of her age, she could not get one. So her parents sent her away.
Mm.
She lived at like a Baptist girl home, I guess, home for girls.
Mhm.
And she had me and immediately returned to high school.
Wow. So you said that she wasn't, so legally she couldn't get an abortion at that age?
Right. I believe her story or her sister's story was she tried to get her sister's ID because they look so much alike so
Wow.
she could have the abortion and not shame her family.
Yeah. Wow. So how has your views changed about adoption from childhood to now?
I like this question because I have a lot of people, non-adopted people say, "Why are you so vocal about this now? What now? Why haven't you said this earlier?"
Hmm.
Well, first, you know, I'm living under societal pressure. My family, I'm young. I'm told to be grateful. Like this was a beautiful thing of adoption. And after I was forced to place my daughter is when I started looking back at it. So as a child, I thought, weird. I made up stories about who my birth mother was and who my birth
Mhm.
father was.
Yeah.
I searched for them. I'm sure you searched for faces in the crowd, just
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And now as an adult, it just coming out of fog is hard, but you can't go back. And
No.
it's crystal clear.
Yeah. Yeah. You said you did search for your biological family, did you? Yeah.
I-
And how did you search? And how did you also search for your identity? I know you tried to do some stuff through state and had some problems.
yeah, I started with the adoption agency in North Carolina at the time. Wherever the child was born could not be on the birth certificate, even though we know most everything is amended. That was a rule for North Carolina at the time. So I was not born in Raleigh. I was not born on
Wow.
March 26th, and the search begins. And there was no DNA. And I searched and I searched and I searched, and I ended up paying $4,000.
Mm,
And she found my birth mother in a second. And I
wow.
went, why is this so easy for you? And why do we have to pay? Why do we?
Yeah.
And that's when like the search engines kind of started coming up. So I found her and that was it. I found her. She said my birth father died.
Mm.
He didn't. And that was all. And she, hi, my name's Patty. Hi, my name's Shelly. We talked to her sister and then nothing else.
Mm. So no contact even to this day since then?
Every now and then, but it's usually her telling me, please, I'll tell you who your father is. This was like maybe 10 years ago. I'll tell you who your father is, but please don't text me again. I said,
Wow.
deal, deal.
Wow. Yeah. Um, what was it like navigating those relationships? I mean, did you have expectations going in?
I think we all have expectations and they're the wrong ones. But what do we do?
Yeah.
We don't, or I never quite fit in with my family. I'm 5'11". I don't act like them. My father is an evangelical minister.
Mm.
So this like oil and water with my spirituality versus theirs. And I just had expectations that I would finally figure out why I was like the way I am,
Hmm.
why my thought process is the way my thought process is. That was my
Yeah.
hopes.
Yeah. Do you know if you had siblings?
I do, and I have reconnected with my father's side, and I love them. And that was the first time, in my life, I've had this long conversation with my biological brother, who is also adopted. 6 months, he's 6 months younger than I am, different mother. We talked and talked and talked. And for the first time, I've always felt like this, peg going into this square hole. And all of a sudden it just went, and I was like, and he's like, and and then we're inseparable. And then we meet the other brothers, blah, 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 blah. And then that's the first time I went, oh, this is Shelly.
Mm,
This is Shelly. I can say whatever I want to say. I don't have to watch what I say. I don't have to be grateful. And it
yeah.
was kind of a turning point, I think.
So you said your birth mom at first said that your birth father was deceased.
Hmm.
Why did she do that?
I never understand why birth mothers do what birth mothers do a lot of times. Um, I think, I don't think it was a serious relationship scene. You know, my father got another woman pregnant just 6 months later. So I'm sure for her, and it's North Carolina, it's Asheville, and Christian religion, shame. He's dead. Stop it. Stop it.
Mm.
Don't bring this up in my life. I haven't told your sister, your half sister. I haven't told my
Oh,
husband. Stop it.
wow. Oh gosh. And then the other thing you said that on the birth certificate, the birthday that was on there really wasn't your birthday.
Yeah.
How did you find that out?
I was searching birth indexes, and that's how it started before I paid somebody. And there was just no baby girl. When I found out it was Asheville, there was just everybody had a mother and a father. And when I talked to my aunt before the whole family shut me down, she said, I just don't recall that as your birthday. She said, I think we've been celebrating March 25th every year
Mm.
in our minds. And I'm like, wait, you celebrate me? She goes, well, I call my sister and I say, thinking about you today. And I said, okay, wow. And then later, when I started search angeling pretty much all the time, I looked at the birth index again, and there I was, like it just clear as day.
How is that? Like you've celebrated your birthday. I mean, I can't imagine how that feels.
I think for a lot of us, I don't know how you feel, but it just all feels like lies, and I'm not a fan of the birthday anyways, because I always think
Mm.
that's a day that was really horrible for a woman,
Yeah.
and it makes you, myself as an adoptee, birth is supposed to be joyous. And I know that my birth was a horrible day
Yeah.
for a whole nother family.
Yeah. How does that, do you understand maybe your birth mother and how she's reacted to you a little more because you are a birth mother and do you have a little more compassion for that, going through that trauma?
I do, and I have given her so much grace. I don't understand, but I do understand. But I think as a birth mother myself, it is not about me. It really is not about me. And understanding her shame and the guilt that she still carries, I get it. But what I cannot understand is any birth mother that refuses to connect with their biological child. I just can't understand it, and
Yeah.
I will not accept it. It is
Yeah.
cruel.
Yeah. And since you represent the triad, I'm curious what you think are some things about adoption that maybe general public or in society don't know about that you think they should know.
Adoption isn't beautiful. It's not this wonderful fix. It's not saving children. It is, it's looked at so upside down. And when the adoptee talks, when the adoptee says, yeah, I really don't like this, everybody looks at us and says, well, why? You know, um, most of us haven't known or weren't told for a while. I just want the world, it's not a simple little, beautiful little package. We were monetized. I had a price. I had a
Yeah.
price.
Mhm.
And I have a white face and light eyes. And so it was a bit higher.
Yeah.
And that would make me think, made me think, I don't know about you. And you're like, if you ever ask, what was my price?
Yeah. No, I haven't.
Oh gosh.
I have
That's a whole
not.
nother process. I know.
I know. It is in the back of my mind though, but
You
yeah,
should
I
you
have
should
thought
do
about
it.
it.
I,
So you're a birth mother. Can you share with us part of that journey, and how being an adoptee influenced your decision in that, or if it did?
I my father, we are Nazarene. I don't know if you're familiar with that religion. Basically, we don't at that time didn't watch movies. There was no prom, um, and I knew, I knew when I told them that I was pregnant what was going to happen. And we still to this day, well, we try to talk about it, but I just say, let's not anymore. Um, Being adopted at that point, it didn't play in much. It was after that. At that point, it was just, oh my gosh, I have messed up again. I have messed up all my life in my parents' eyes. I have
Mm.
always been in trouble. I've been the loud kid. I sat in the refrigerator box cut out for me in first grade to pay attention. You know, Shelly's kind of odd, different. And I just wanted them, and I knew what they were going to say. And they said it. And they said, Shelly, you know what you need to do. And at that point, I thought abortion was just horribly wrong. Like, oh, what woman,
Mm.
And then till I started thinking about it, and I couldn't do that. And they said, pretty much told me where to go and how to do it. But in their in their on their side of the court, they said, now you can keep this baby. You won't have a place to live.
Mm.
We'll take your car away from you and we will not pay for your college. And I was 17 years old. I had moved out of the house already, just trying to get, and it wasn't working well for me. And, looking back now, I'm like, oh, I would have given a big like you to them
Hmm.
and the whole thing. But I thought, what am I going to do? How am I going to raise a baby? I'm already going to have to move back in their house.
Yeah.
So that is why I went through with it.
And do you feel like you bonded with your baby, or did you try to, since you knew that you were going to give her up, did you try to like not do
Um,
that?
no, I did. I love her, and I'm sorry, I'm like getting a little
That's
emotional.
okay.
Um, I wanted her every step of the way,
Mm.
and I wrote her letters. I recorded cassettes back in the day, put the
Yeah.
tape over the top
Yeah.
and recorded. And, you know, I just told her how much um she will be loved and to never ever think, anything different.
Hmm.
And I had a C-section with her,
Mm.
and it wasn't the time, she's 30. So 30 years ago, you stayed in the hospital a bit longer.
Yeah.
So I had 6 days with her,
Wow.
and I just didn't want her to leave my sight. And they would not allow me to breastfeed her, because they said that would be too hard for you. And I'm like, what about her? So they bound me and gave me
Yeah.
medicine. And so yeah, we bonded.
Was it an open or closed adoption?
It was supposed to be semi-open, was the new trend in adoption, to get the birth mother to feel, a little bit like she will have a part in this child's life. And as we know, no,
Didn't
no,
happen.
didn't happen.
What is a semi-open? What does that mean?
So a semi-open is also when they started um, matching parents to birth mothers, um, which is another form of coercion. In my opinion, it makes you feel very obligated, and I tried to change my mind, and that was thrown in my face. So it was matching, and then semi-open would be I would get letters and I could write letters, and they would send pictures. And that happened, but it wasn't after a year.
Hmm.
So
And then did they stop doing it after a while?
yes, they stopped doing it, but excuse me, it was all through an adoption agency with the Church of the Nazarene. And I got pregnant in Ohio, but eventually moved to Nashville, where I am now, to go to college. Alyssa was placed here in Nashville. And so all of our friends knew her. All of the church knew her.
Oh, wow.
So um, I would still see her around town as a child, but there was never any communication until she was 18.
And then how did that come about? Was that from you or her or?
I didn't want to do it because it's her thing, you know. But that's when Facebook was starting, kind of around then. And I just liked a picture and she sent me a message back and she goes, I know exactly who you are. I
Really?
said, yeah. And, then she sent me a friend request and for like what?
How did she know? Do
And
you know how she knew?
she said that her parents were very honest with her. And she stalked me on Facebook.
Well, that was easy. So are you guys still in communication and how's
we
that
have
going?
we have never met. We have never met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
You
have
guys still
never
live in the
met.
same town?
We do now. She went to college and then she studied for a bit in France and Scotland, and she is back now. Still down the street. We talk. She asks a lot of questions about bio stuff, as hoping that I get more information from my side. As I get it, I try to tell her because,
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
that's a double whammy when you,
Yeah.
but that's about it. And I told her it's her time and I just want her to know that I love her. She is not an interruption to my life. She will not make anything complicated for me. And she just said, I just don't, so much has happened and she has a lot. And right after she was adopted, her parents split up.
Mm. Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
hopefully someday.
Yeah. Do you hold any shame or guilt or anything like that for relinquishing your daughter?
Oh, yeah. I hold so much shame. I hold, and trying, working to differentiate between shame and guilt is a thing. But I don't know personally, and I know a lot of birth parents that are ever okay again. Even if they did it, like we signed on the dotted line. And I understand that adoptees, we had zero consent, right? We were just shipped and rebooted, renamed, I have shame. I did sign and I hold myself accountable for that. And I will probably never be able to let that go. I wanted her. I tried to get her again, but it just wasn't
Yeah.
allowed.
Yeah.
There was a time when we knew how to heal ourselves. Western medicine has its place, but they've made us forget our own power. With somatic mindful guided imagery, you can discover how to reconnect, restore, and heal from within. Take control of your healing journey. The power is already inside of you. SomaticHealingJourneys.com.
So you
I
had told me prior that your daughter was adopted due to illegal rehoming. Can you tell us what you meant by that, illegal rehoming?
So rehoming, that wasn't my birth daughter.
Oh, okay.
That's my adopted daughter.
Okay.
Yeah. Rehoming is regulated in a lot of states. So she was she was adopted from like a Craigslist ad.
Oh my goodness. You mean originally?
Uh no, the last part
Okay.
where my
Wow.
husband adopted her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
I see these groups on Facebook, and they're basically rehoming. Have you seen these?
Yeah.
For kid-
Oh,
But I think a lot of them are just scams that people are just trying to get money. But there's these people that are so desperate for babies. They're just like, oh, I want your baby, DM me. And I'm just like,
gosh.
what is happening? What is
What,
happening?
like if you're so concerned, why don't you ask the mama, what do you need, mama? what's going on, mama? Because I know that you're not going to be poor forever. You're not going to be in that horrible relationship forever. What do you need, mama? But no, they're like, we'll give you anything
Mm-hmm.
to have this instant family. And then we're going to be really confused when this child kind of turns around at some point. Some adoptees don't and go, what?
Yeah. So she was adopted by somebody else, and then they couldn't or didn't want or whatever for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so then put her up for adoption again.
Yes. She
Wow.
was in 4 homes. And
Mm.
I think at that time when you adopted from Russia, if there was a sibling set in, well, Siberia, if there was a sibling set, you had to take them. So the one was for her younger baby brother.
Oh.
And she
Wow.
was,
Wow.
feral is what they called
Yeah.
her.
Oh my gosh. I have heard people use that term before with some foster kids. And I was just like, what?
It's like, what do you
That
do to not
is
kill this person? How do you
horrible.
just like, how do you not, what do you say when they say that?
Yeah. These kids are traumatized. That's what it is.
Yes.
They're traumatized. Ah, it just kills me.
And
So
doesn't,
what are, go ahead.
and don't know a language, or they're drugged up a lot
Exactly.
of times. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. A whole new country. They can't understand what you're saying. You
Mm-mm.
can't understand what they want or need. They've been taken from their families. It's just unbelievable. So, what are your views on like, open adoption, kinship, guardianship? What do you think about the different forms of
Of,
adoption?
you know, people ask me, what do you think? You had a net positive adoption, aren't you? I don't believe that adoption really is necessary. But external care is
Hmm.
vitally
Hmm.
necessary. I wish that all the states could get to some point with guardianship that it would make sense. Not all states are there, and it's so very different. But I used to think kinship was a really great idea until I started hearing the stories of kinship adoptees.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard a few, they're not many, but I have heard a few, and it's just interesting that they're not turning out, I
Right.
think, how people that are advocates for it think that it does. I don't know.
I think so too. And I think for like a adoption, like a domestic infant adoptee, even I think sometimes we look at kinship like, well, you're fortunate. At least you have a face. But
Hmm.
I don't think we understand that they can sometimes, many times, see rejection every day in their face
Yeah. Yeah,
and
there's still that
see that.
rejection there.
And
Yeah.
I
And
don't
a
know.
lot of times they're still not even told that that your cousin is really your
I
mom or what, it's just like
what?
it negates the whole reason for doing
Yeah.
the kinship adoption. When you're just gonna lie to them, it's just like what?
Yeah, let's lie to the adoptees. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
They'll buy it.
Yeah. I always wonder how many people are living in fear, because of DNA and the
I'm not
stories,
sad
the
about it.
lies, just wondering every day when that Pandora's box, the lid's gonna fly off and
I
the truth's coming out. It's
know.
just.
I live for it. I'm like, what? I just don't, I don't know how you feel as an adoptee, but I hate secrets.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. And to kind of put it under the umbrella of we were just protecting you. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't want you to hurt. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
want you to tell you that because,
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, tell me what adoptee doesn't want to know the truth or would rather not have known the truth.
Right.
I
It could
haven't
be
heard of anybody. I
no, and
don't care how
if
hard
you
it
find
is.
one,
I don't care what the story was, how difficult it was, anything. Have not heard of one adoptee say that they didn't want to know that whatever the truth was. Yeah.
and if you find one, please, like,
Yeah.
I want to know too.
Right. I'm sure there's a couple, but I don't know. Many reunions don't go well. And I feel like
Mhm.
It seems like the birth mother's often at the center of the rocky relationship. Why do you think birth mother relationships are hard to navigate for adoptees?
And it could be birth fathers. I just seem to hear it more
Hmm.
with birth mothers. And reunification's so weird. And it's also like a trauma again, you know. I just think that birth mothers, some of them still live in birth motherland. And they need to just tell themselves they did a good job. This was a good thing. They gave a great gift. They are selfless. Oh my goodness, let's live this lie and not deal with our feelings.
Yeah.
And when the adoptee comes to that birth mother expecting, the adoptee fully into reunion for the first time, we're going to be best friends,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're going to go to all the things everybody wanted to always do with a mother that couldn't.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of birth mothers, I even know birth mothers that had children in the 90s that still won't tell people they're birth mothers. So that's why I think it's hard, because they're stuck in their own fog.
Mm, yeah. I believe that too. I've kind of come to that conclusion after opening the podcast up to telling it other, triad member stories. And I'm like, each leg, everybody's in their own fog. I mean, adoptive parents, we all have been told the narrative and what role we play in that and how we should act and feel about it. And we just believe it,
Hmm.
you know, we just do it. And yeah, I think a lot of people are still operating from those things that we were told, you know.
I know, because it sounds pretty. It sounds good.
Yeah.
We don't like to hear things that aren't good.
Yeah. Nobody wants to hear the other side,
No,
like you kind of alluded to that earlier. It's like, why are you bringing that up? Why are you talking about it?
no,
Yeah.
no. You don't need you. You didn't go into addiction because you were adopted. You didn't. Suicide. No, that's just no. Not because
Yeah.
of adoption.
Right.
Something
Yeah. Everybody has this problem. So
right.
they
Oh, how
totally negate
amazing!
that. Yeah. Right.
That is totally it. Everybody.
It is so not validating when people say that.
No,
It's like,
no.
okay, but our population
Mm,
is so many times more, you know, in prisons and, like you said, addiction and suicidal ideation and just mental health issues and, the list goes on and on.
I know. But
Nobody
nobody,
wants their bubble burst.
nobody. It is beautiful, Melissa. It is beautiful.
Right? They want
Yes,
to stay ignorant. That's why I do this.
I know. And
I feel like the more stories people hear, they're going to believe it at some point. It's
it's
not just one
something.
story. There's 150 stories so far that that I've heard, and it's like, when are you going to start believing that this is a thing? I
Do
mean,
you
that
get
this is a
like
thing.
comments? Do you get angry comments?
Um, I get, like I was just saying, kind of like, well, everybody has that. Doesn't necessarily mean you're because you were adopted.
Right.
You know, I get that kind of brush off,
Yeah.
thing, but not really a lot of negative stuff, but more just not validating,
Right.
type of stuff.
Which we're good. We're used to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still working on trying to figure out how to talk to people in a way that will get them to listen. It's really hard to
It
do.
is. It is.
Yeah.
You don't want to use ultra strong language. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
blow your mind with this big language, but I'm not gonna walk you through it like it's a beautiful. But
Hmm. Yeah. So what advice would you give to other birth parents navigating, thinking about adoption?
thinking about, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You will. I have never been able to parent, and with the birth mothers that I work with in my group, parenting is very hard.
Mm.
Connection's hard. It's hard for adoptees as well. they're not going to be okay. If
I think
fine,
there's a lot
there's
more resources nowadays, don't you think?
yes, and it's not so shameful. Like, oh well,
Yeah.
she's such a slut. Of course she got, things like that. We're not
Mm.
hearing that as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So, yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
And
Go
I mean, I
ahead.
wish abortion was still, if we can say that,
Hmm.
um, more accessible than it is now, for that option. But don't adoption's not, it's not a solution to anything. It's just an
Yeah.
outcome.
Yeah. I think it just opens another chapter of things to
With
deal
two
with.
people, yeah, then you'd bring another person into that.
Right. So, can you briefly discuss your work as a search angel? Because we're going to do a whole nother episode on the search angel stuff, which I'm super excited about. So, just kind of briefly discuss your work in that and talk about how you advocate through that for adoptee rights, particularly like medical history and that kind of thing.
I love search angeling and reunification. And it really did start when I had a 4,000, I stole my husband's credit card like one night, and said, oops, sorry, apologize later. When it was so fast that this person found. So
Man.
I, the people that I knew that were adopted, I'm like, how hard is this? I'm going to look because I was still looking for, I wasn't told about anything else. And I still thought even if my father is deceased, I could have siblings. I'm
Mhm.
searching. And then it just turned to one adoptee friend of mine said, hey, can you help me find my mom? And I'm like, yeah, I'll try. And boom, it took me like 2 days. And then it just kept going. And I went, oh, this is good. This is a good thing. Um, because we still don't have rights. And searching, there's a lot of people that search for adoptees and they charge a fee. And I
Mm.
know some of them. And I even have adoptees come to me and say, I'm going to get my records, but I still would like for you to search. And I'm like, well, what state are you in? Let's say Tennessee. I'm like, okay, you can pay $250 and you can get your records. They will be redacted,
Oh,
but you
wow.
will see the state of Tennessee seal. But sure, no, you know, so advocating for that is state by state and it is contacting all the time your senators. I bugged the hell out of mine. I finally got a meeting with her next month and I'm super excited about it. But search angeling for me is something that fell into doing reunifications because I was so hurt by the rejection piece.
Mhm.
And I probably did go about it the wrong way. I mean,
Why do you
you
say
know,
that?
I mean, you're like, okay, I have the information. Oh, okay, let me just have a glass of wine. And you're like, oh, that bottle was good. Let me just, hey, Patty. um, I don't take all the onus on that, but so I started doing reunifications to just explain expectations. And some reunifications go beautifully, and then 5 days later, crash and burn. Never
Mhm.
hear from them again. Um, or there's some sibling, and there's always specific things, and we'll talk about that next week that bio families are scared about. Um, but I do it because we deserve that. And I give free DNA tests to adoptees through
Mm.
the answers we deserve.
Yeah.
I just don't believe we should pay to know our name, where we were born, the day we were born, our health information.
Yeah. That's a big one.
If I had known that my entire birth father's side died of alcoholism,
Mm.
Over and over, and my own birth father. The day I heard that information, I had missed him by 6 months,
Mm.
and I checked myself into rehab.
Wow.
I wish I had
Wow.
known that so many years ago.
It all made sense in that moment, right?
Yeah. I'm like, well,
Guess I do need help.
I do. This isn't going to get better, is it? No, I'm going to. So, yeah, I think it's important and we deserve it. Every adoptee deserves.
Yeah, definitely. So share with us what you want struggling triad members to know that you may have not shared yet.
Um, I want struggling triad members, any parts of it. When we think we're so alone as adoptees, with not fitting in, people pleasing, and we have a tendency to not share our feelings because we are too much for others, we believe. We're not. Birth birth parents the same. When you think you're losing your mind and you cannot do another day because the guilt is killing you, there is another birth parent out there that feels the exact same way. This story might be different even for adoption. My story, your story, it transcends along the same things, and it all comes on being rejected. And that's the same thing with adoptive parents. What if what if the child loves, go figure, her actual biological mother and father more than, you know, her family?
Mm,
There's just so much fear and nobody's talking about it.
no, yeah, exactly. Nobody's talking about it. I don't know if you've been hearing about this new study that's coming out. That is showing because we everybody says, oh, adoptees are 4 times more likely to try and unalive themselves. I always thought that number was really low.
Thank
Um,
you.
didn't make sense, but 4 times is a lot. But I just felt
Sure.
like
Really low.
that's all right. Well, this new study that's supposed to be coming out next year, they're still conducting it so far, is showing close to 38 times,
I believe that.
and birth mothers 40 times.
I,
Yeah.
I, and I won't see this in my lifetime, but it'll even go up if every child that's adopted, their birth certificate says adopted and their death certificate says adopted, and we can be studied even further. I'm not
Yeah.
surprised. And I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of adoptees talk about that. We're still here talking, but how many of us had tried?
Hmm.
Um, Once, how many?
Yeah. 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 Well, I'm doing a Zoom call tonight with a few people that went signed up to talk about it. And I'm thinking, how come there's only a few people signing up when it's 38 times?
Mm.
This is like a pandemic,
Hmm.
but nobody went, not even the adoptees want to talk about it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Oh,
they're scared. I think it's fear of opening, taking the lid off of that box and really looking at it. I think it's the fear of doing that. I think a lot of adoptees feel like a pressure cooker, like, the lid's on,
mm.
even though, I feel like
Hmm.
it's going to blow off. But right now I'm keeping it on. So
Hmm.
I'm maintaining. So I'm going to keep
Mm.
doing that because
Yeah.
I'm afraid to take it off. Like, then what's
We
going to happen? Right.
we maintain so well.
Yeah. Well, until we can't.
And then
Right.
it's
Yeah. Because at some point it is. And that's what coming out of the fog
it
is
is.
a lot of times. So was there something that, made you like come out of the fog? Is there like an event or
It
something that,
was it was having my daughter, and um when well, I always thought, like, why, if we love something, why do we give it away? If we have a gift, why do we give it away? Why would this, why? Never was answered. And then in the state of Ohio, where I relinquished, the law is you have to, which is so messed up. Oh my goodness. Looking back on it, makes me mad. I was young. But so the law is you have to abandon the baby. So she was in the hospital, like little glass, I had to walk away, and they assured me, we'll be right back in here, but this is what you have to do.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's a double whammy. So when I
Yeah.
go, and so I just remember crawling out of the hospital on my hands and knees. And I thought, what? What is this adoption? What? This is shit.
Yeah.
It's all, and
Wow.
that's when it started. And then, once it starts, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a good day.
Yeah.
It's not a good year.
No.
That's when it started.
Mm. So you have an upcoming monologue
I
and
do.
something coming up. So talk about that. Tell us about your website, the DNA kits and things.
So the website is just the answers we deserve. Right now, unfortunately, I do not have a waiting list. Normally, it's really long. Um, but upcoming on October 5th in Charleston is Fog Lift with Reckoning with the Primal Wound.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a monologue originally, but I've written in a birth father with me that I've
Mm.
met through kind of working with him. And it just talks about the stages of how the adoptee feels from 4 to 30, dealing with addiction, suicide, and rejection, and loving, finding what I could find. And his pieces, it's a mind blowing story.
Mm.
I can't wait for people and mind blowing. So I'm really excited about that. It's I've the first thing I've really written that I wanted to perform. I like to perform. I had a scholarship, just a teeny one I tried out for New York Performing Arts, but I was not allowed to go there. I had to go to like a private Christian college. So I have this, I've always liked to write, but I'm excited about that. And some people have feelings about the book Reckoning with the Primal Wound. Some don't. It's a good book for what it was. Adopted parents don't need any more shout outs, but it was somebody advocating for us when
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. But I love the film, Reckoning with the Primal Wound. Um, and so that'll be in Charleston, and it'll be live streamed.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so anybody can join and watch both the movie and the duologue with Said and I and Autumn's. Oh, can't share what's actually going to happen because it's a big surprise.
That's
But the
okay. So
Q and
there's a
A,
surprise,
yeah,
everybody.
it's gonna shock everyone. I think it's every adoptee's dream. This is my dream that's going to happen. But her
Cool.
birth mother will be there, so I'm excited. I'm excited to use my voice now,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you for letting me do that. I have not. I usually just listen to adoptees and just say you're not weird, I promise.
Yeah. Yep. Well, someone will be listening to your story and thinking the same thing. So good for you for being brave and sharing it and starting to use your voice. It's just time. It's time to educate. And, the more of us that get out there and tell our stories, the more people hopefully listen and, start looking at
That's
what
all
needs
we
to
can
change.
do.
Yeah. So you're going to be joining us for part 2 in a few weeks, and we're going to
Yes.
discuss your search angel expertise. We'll
Yes.
talk about some ups and downs of some of the reunion stuff that you want to educate us on, and a lot
Yes.
more. So I'm looking forward to that in a few weeks. Can't wait to dive into that
I
subject.
know.
Haven't done that yet, so
It's my favorite subject.
yay! So talk to you in a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you so
Thanks
much.
for coming on today. Thanks for listening today, Karma Crew. If you want to be a guest please contact me at mindyourownkarma@gmail.com, or you can go to my website, mindyourownkarma.com. If you are struggling with stress, anxiety, adoption trauma, or any other issues that are holding you back in life, you can look at my website, somatichealingjourneys.com, where you can get a free consult if you want to know more about how somatic mindful guided imagery can help you with your specific needs. As always, take what you need and leave what you don't. And always remember to mind your own karma. I'll see you next time.
This podcast is created for educational purposes by the telling of adoption experiences. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or Mind Your Own Karma.